Kryst is king and queen because Kryst is a frequency that generates from he-she alchemy. The entire concept of Kryst has been boiled down into this caricature that has been positioned on the cross on the world stage of belief. All Christianity is, literally, is the anthropomorphizing of ancient Aryan esoteric truths. So what we have is a diabolical religion, a dogma that has hijacked ancient creational codes that were once preserved by a solar race, right? And through the subjugation of these creational codes, they have been distorted. When evil takes reign of anything at all, whatever it touches, it distorts, right? In a nutshell, whatever evil touches, it distorts. And it pays to repeat, evil cannot create. It can only imitate. Therefore, nothing that evil does is original. It's a stolen distortion, a counterfeit imitation of an original thing. And so essentially anthropomorphizing is when someone attributes human-like qualities to sacred phenomena, right? And Kryst is a spiritual phenomena because it is the frequency that generates from he-she high love alchemy. That's literally what the fish of Christos is the symbol of. In truth, it is an Odal rune that is to represent the Odinic power that comes when you fuse two sig runes, one masculine sig, one feminine sig, so like two lightning bolts. When you fuse these two forces together, it creates the Odinic magic, aka vril, ether, plasma, right? And so the entire concept of Kryst has been boiled down to this caricature, right? Like this human, it is actually humanized when we look at the fact that it's just centered around this Jewish Messiah, when in actuality, it is a sacred phenomena, a creational phenomena that comes from the high alchemy of masculine and feminine divine frequencies. The symbol of Odal transmits the memory of an ancient alchemical love story. It is the divine fusion of the two whom are really one at the origin of he-she Hyperborean solar alchemy. All is symbolic in the saga of the Hyperborean spirit. The Odal rune is the token of Orphism, which involves a mystery cult who throughout the rounds has maintained the memory of this ancient love science, preserved ever slightly through poetic esoteric arts. The wounded Fisher King of Parsifal is an Arthurian archetype and the final guardian of the Grail. This is a living mythology that contains the very wisdom of the Odinic fish of Christos. The Fisher King is wounded by the spear of Longinus for sins relating to forbidden acts or failure to protect. Plagued by this sin, he falls into the maimed king, or sinner king. This phase of the king represents a damaged leader who suffers infertility and a wasteland in terms of his spirit and his kingdom. The wounded Fisher King symbolizes the fragmented, wounded aspect of the self that urges the inner quest for the search of the Grail. But what is the sin of the king? What ails thee? And what exactly is the Grail? To truly understand the wounded Fisher King mythos, we must first ask the right questions that lead us to a lost treasury of wisdom that has been buried throughout the rounds. Many interpretations of this mythos directly dismiss the science of Orphic love and its intimate link to this mythology. However, in Miguel Serrano's esoteric philosophy, the wounded Fisher King represents the fragmented state of humanity, specifically the divine Aryan Hyperborean bloodline, that was damaged by cosmic transgression and intermingling with the demiurge's creation, which was the original sin, where the gods mixed with the daughters of men. This corrupted the astral blood of the Hyperborean, which skews the memory of eternal love, which is an alchemical love distinct to the Hyperborean bloodline, as the Hyperborean race is Orphic in their original state. The rejection of the eternal feminine, she who flows in his blood, is at the root of all disorder. When he chose the earth woman over his divine feminine, this created the wound, the original spiritual sin of the Hyperboreans, where the gods mixed with the daughters of men, leading to the loss of paradise. I see this to be the wounded Fisher King's sin and reason for his spiritual disease and ineptitude, the direct causation of a societal wasteland and a corrupted kingdom. He cannot nobly lead without the reverence of his divine she. This is why they say behind every great man is his queen. And yet there are depths to this alchemy, because there is only one she for every Hyperborean he, and no other can compare in all worlds and realities. This is at the heart of true Christos alchemy. One eternal feminine lives within each Hyperborean he, internally, ordained before time, written in eternity. Choosing the external Eve is choosing the earth woman, the one who is external to his own soul. This only exacerbates the rupture, leading us deeper into the woes of the Kali Yuga wasteland. The divine union of he-she frequencies, the reconvergence of absolutes in a yin-yang cosmic chemistry, is at the root of the true sacred science of Christos, deconstructed by Judeo-Christianity that convinced men to reject the divine feminine essence for easy Eve, which led to vacancy and spiritual depravity, which run so prevalent in our modern society. Maestro Miguel Serrano sees the wounded king as a symbol of the spiritual castration and degeneration of the Golden Age, which can only be healed by blood memory, or remembrance within the blood, there where one achieves a magic wedding within. The divine feminine currency is what activates the memory. Only she, the eternal feminine, can restore the lost memory. She is central to the retrieval of all that has been lost, for she is the oracle of ancient love magic. She withholds the chalice of lost memory, and only through the recognition of the eternal feminine can we ever hope to be free from the prison we live in without her divine wisdom. Without the king's internal recognition of her, he remains maimed in a wasteland barren of all magic, on a constant karmic loop, deranged within the phantasmagoria or delusions of the defected Piscean age. The king's illness is his amnesia of her, which leads to deformation of the masculine spirit. Within that dire state, he will always be wounded, hopelessly fishing for the parallel currency that is central to his solar awakening. This is why Parsifal suggests that the knights seek the Grail without God, but with the memory of your beloved in your heart. The eternal feminine holds the key to the magic, mystery, and memory, and without her, we lose all three, which is what we have experienced in this diabolical reality that is absent of true love's currency. Judeo-Christianity is a religion that rejects her. All Abrahamic faith is designed for the rejection, for the abandonment, for the dismissal of her and her feminine essence, right? This is literally what this religion is built upon. The dismissal, the extraction, the overall rejection of the feminine wisdom, of the divine feminine wisdom. And without her, there is no Christ, ironically, right? Because Christ is king and queen. And this is the lesson of the ages that won't make it to the main stages. because they reject her in her many faces and phases. The parasite race rages against the divine feminine essence because she withholds the key to the lost memory. And until we acknowledge her, until we resurrect the wisdom of her, we will continue to fall in these soul entrapments time and time again. She holds the key to this alchemical memory. The church buried this truth when it submerged her divine essence with the demolition of our solar temples and codices. The eternal truth of creation is that Christ is king and queen. Because Christ is the magic that derives from he-she sacred love alchemy. This is at the heart of Ariosophy. Because at the nucleus of our racial story is a divine king and queen who created all everything, dreamed into being by the Black Sun entity. The Odal rune transmits the truth of this story through symbol, 2 sig runes, 2 lightning bolts of creation, that when fused in sacred matrimony restore the balance of the world, ending time and restoring eternity. This is the holy truth that is boiled down into a caricature, into the worship of a Jewish Messiah who aids in the erasure of her, and in place installs Jewish supremacy, which leads to the weakening of the divine masculine spirit, resulting in the production of Pasu, or beast men deeply confused on their sexuality, without the memory of her, leading to great strife between the masculine and feminine energies. The reason for all chaos is the rejection of her. The hope for redemption and return is the resurrection of her. So next time you hear the slaves of Atlantis regurgitate the wicked mantra that Christ is king, boldly say, and queen. Because Christ is a frequency that can only return through divine love alchemy. Therefore, there is no Christ without she, the queen. So amid this season, when everybody is celebrating the resurrection of him, I want you to remember there is no reverence of Christ without the recognition of her. Because Christ is king and queen. It is a sacred creational phenomena that generates from he-she Orphic love alchemy. It is not a solitary Jewish masculine figure that is to be worshipped and set above the throne of all else. That is the actual deformation of something incredibly holy and unutterable. For true Christ is the very magic that comes from divine union of the two whom are really one. A magic lost to this world because 2.6 billion sleepers continue empowering the false idea that Christ is only king. And yet without she, there is no divinity, and we spiritually fall into a pit of absolute profanity, as we can here on earth clearly see.